Tony Iommi strummed the first few ominous notes that conjured heavy metal, the genre has been identified with promoting the occult, evil, and Satanism. For years, metal has been connected with the devil, and those who didn't understand the genre or became fans of it have often dismissed it as a catalyst for evil ideologies and even social ills such as violence, misogyny, and cultish tendencies. Outsiders have pointed at the imagery and lyrics of many heavy metal bands and records as evidence of the genre's fascination with the devil. And while many bands have tackled other topics in their music, such as politics, philosophy, or self-reflection, more bands revel in the controversy, choosing to put out aggressive and confrontational music that only strengthens the belief that heavy metal is evil. So the big question is, why is heavy metal often connected with Satan? And what's driving metal bands into making music that can be seen as the devil's work? Keep watching as we explore Satanism in heavy metal throughout the years. The devil in rock music. Since Black Sabbath exploded into the scene with their brand of blues-based, heavy-sounding heavy metal, the genre has consistently been a target of conservatives who deem it as promoting Satanism, vices, and nihilism, among many others. But truth be told, the satanic labels didn't start with Sabbath. Some of heavy metal's precursors back in the 60s were also slapped with the evil or satanic label by casual listeners who didn't take too kindly to the more aggressive-sounding rock bands of the time. It's no secret that the Beatles mostly dominated the 60s, but there were also the Rolling Stones, who revolutionized a grittier brand of hard rock that influenced countless other bands later on, such as Aerosmith and Guns N' Roses. When they released their album, Their Satanic Majesty's Request, in 1967, many began throwing satanic accusations at them because of his title. A year later, they released their next album, Beggar's Banquet, which contained the song Sympathy for the Devil. It turned a lot of heads for its title alone, but it's in the lyrics where Mick Jagger threw a curveball that would change pop music forever. Singing in first person, Jagger describes the devil's role in many of history's most controversial events, such as the crucifixion of Jesus and numerous conflicts and wars throughout the ages. With Sympathy for the Devil, Jagger didn't only sing about the devil, but actually personified him, something that was fresh yet controversial at the time. Soon after, many rock and roll bands followed suit as the peace and love philosophy of the 60s became outdated, and people started opting for something more edgy and gritty. Led Zeppelin became connected with Satanism because of rumors that their classic hit, Stairway to Heaven, included hidden, diabolical messages when played backwards. Jimmy Page's interest in the occult and eventual purchase of a house that once belonged to Aleister Crowley further fueled the belief that the band worshipped the devil. Arthur Brown also gained prominence in the late 60s. Brown pioneered shock rock through his theatrical live performances, which included face paint, burning helmets, and his trademark screams. He eventually became known as the God of Hellfire, a nickname the media took from the opening lines of his most successful single, Fire. However, business started picking up when Black Sabbath burst into the scene. Black Sabbath, Alice Cooper, and Kiss. In 1970, Black Sabbath released their eponymous debut album, whose cover was enough to send shivers down one's spine. The band was just as influenced by horror films as much as the blues-based rock bands of the time, and it showed on this record. In particular, the opening track, Black Sabbath, is widely recognized as the song that created heavy metal as a whole. The song was built on three ominous notes that is known among music circles as Diabolus in Musica, or the Devil's Interval, and contains occult-themed lyrics written by Geezer Butler, who at the time was also heavily invested in the subject. The song's dark lyrics, heavy guitar sound, and overall evil-sounding atmosphere became the blueprint for all metal bands moving forward. From then on, Sabbath created a Hall of Fame career by making music that alluded to topics such as the devil, evil, and the occult. But it wasn't just Sabbath that took on such a role. In the 70s, Alice Cooper drew audiences through his macabre live performances that included stage illusions and violent imagery such as blood, electric chairs, baby dolls, and decapitation. Cooper built on the foundation set by Arthur Brown and significantly turned up the shock factor, raising concern among the general public. The 70s also saw the debut of Kiss, who also took their cue from shock rock by performing in makeup and featuring pyrotechnics, fire breathing, and blood spitting, courtesy of Gene Simmons' onstage persona, the Demon, in their live performances. While their musical style and lyricism was more of a pop-infused hard rock and heavy metal style, their imagery was enough to trigger parents and conservatives of the time. There was even a rumor that floated around for a while that the band's name is actually an acronym for Knights in Satan's Service. The 80s. During the latter half of the 70s, newer British bands changed the sound of metal by incorporating more melodies and faster tempos. This started the new wave of British heavy metal movement, led by bands such as Iron Maiden, Saxon, Motorhead, early Def Leppard, and Venom. The latter band is known among the heavy metal underground for pushing the envelope when it comes to satanic themes in the genre. Whereas other bands simply touched on occultist themes, Venom fully embraced a diabolical image and wrote songs like Welcome to Hell, In League with Satan, and Black Metal, which directly address satanic subjects to the point of almost sounding like promoting them. The band's first two albums, Welcome to Hell and Black Metal, are considered highly influential in the development of extreme metal in the years to come. One of the bands that were influenced by Venom's brand of satanic metal is Slayer. As one of the pioneers of thrash metal in the 80s, Slayer thrived on controversy, mixing their fast, aggressive thrash metal sound with lyrics about Satan, hell, evil, death, serial killers, war, and anything in between that would draw the ire of conservatives and parents. The band forged a legacy as one of the most controversial heavy metal acts ever and continued making provocative music until their retirement in 2019. During the 80s, pop music in general had become edgier and more provocative, with many songs openly tackling subjects such as sex, violence, drug and alcohol use, and the occult. This led to the formation of the Parents Music Resource Center in 1985, led by Tipper Gore, then wife of former U.S. Vice President Al Gore. Although the PMRC targeted many pop songs during that time, it was especially critical of heavy metal and hard rock songs. In the Filthy 15, a list of 15 songs the PMRC deemed most offensive, 9 of the 15 artists listed were heavy metal or hard rock acts. 2 songs, namely Merciful Fate's Into the Coven and Venom's Possessed, were put into the list due to their lyrics about being the occult. The PMRC was responsible for the introduction of parental advisory stickers, which were slapped on records that were deemed unfit for younger audiences. Many artists in various genres were strongly against the idea and slammed Gore and the PMRC on their songs. Near the end of the PMRC's dissolution in the 90s, shock rock and satanic subjects re-entered the mainstream with the rise of Marilyn Manson in the 90s. Known as one of the most controversial provocators of his generation, Manson used anti-Christian imagery and lyrics to convey his harsh criticisms of American culture. However, while the PMRC was able to do something about musical acts in the US, they could not touch the Norwegian black metal bands who took their satanic tendencies to the extreme. Norwegian black metal. In the early 90s, a black metal scene began forming in Norway, led by bands such as Mayhem, Burzum, Darkthrone, Immortal, and Emperor. Whereas many bands in England and North America used satanic imagery for shock value, the black metal scene completely integrated anti-Christian ideologies and beliefs into their lives. Many members of the scene had antisocial tendencies and developed a cult-like mindset that wanted black metal to be exclusive to a select few. This led to a number of incidents, such as the death of Mayhem vocalist Dead via a self-inflicted gunshot, the murder of his bandmate Euronymous by Varg Vikernes in 1993, and a series of church burnings which were committed by members of the black metal community. Today, metal still flirts with the topics of Satanism and the occult, although most of them are for shock and entertainment value than anything else. Heavy metal has had an affair with such subjects since its invention, and whether people like it or not, it's here to stay. But the genre is not entirely about the devil. Rather, metal is about independence, nonconformity, integrity, and following one's own path, and the evil themes are there not to be promoted, but to drive these points home. Not everybody will understand this, but then again, metal has often been misunderstood since time immemorial.